Well, welcome. We are here at Reinvent in the Expo Hall. It is crazily, funny enough, busy. And I'm here with the one and only Nick Smith, who is literally the lead guru, PM, product manager for Amazon EventBridge.
Thank you. Super cool to be here, and especially good to be able to see you in person.
Absolutely. It's always good. Yeah, it's always good. So tell me about EventBridge. Over the year, there have been a number of announcements and things that are going on. I know there are a bunch of all sort of integrations. But I think the one super cool thing with EventBridge, it just got fast earlier this year. So what's that about?
So we introduced a bunch of changes early in the year, really under the hood changes.
Yep.
So these applied to everyone. You didn't have to provision a new event bus or make any changes. And essentially, we sped up the event bus. So instead of your P50 latency for when an event comes into an event bus and when it gets delivered, that used to be around 500 milliseconds. We shrunk that down to about 87 milliseconds. So a lot of
87, that's quite specific.
87. I know that number because I've looked it up a bunch of times. But yeah, so you know, the kind of end-to-end latency has been reduced. And what we're really excited about now is we see a ton of customers that have started to look at event-driven and say, hey, this is a really cool way to architect our my application. They can now start using those patterns for more interactive applications.
So that's the thing. People before used to think, oh, synchronous must be fast and async must be slow, obviously.
Exactly.
But now if you're talking, 87 milliseconds of an event going through an event bus, now you're talking about different kind of things.
Totally. Yeah. And we've done a lot of work to get that P99 latency. That's like maximum.
Yeah. So if you're not aware, P50 is half of all your events hit that number. P99 is 99% of all your events are going to hit that number. So that's,
So 99% of your events will get delivered in, I think it's around 500 milliseconds or less.
Okay.
And so we pay a lot of attention to this because especially in these interactive applications, you can imagine a user that's clicking a button and then waiting for a response.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that time is really low. And so we've done a lot of work early in the year to reduce that latency. We've got a whole lot more planned for early next year, where we think we'll be able to get it down into the kind of the 50th percentile, the P50 latency to somewhere in the kind of lowest single digits.
Wow.
And the P99 below 250 milliseconds.
Wow.
So we speak to banks, we speak to financial services companies that will do things like credit card swipes. Those have to complete in under a second. Often they have to have a bit of back and forth.
Okay.
So we're really excited about
those are sort of asynchronous processes which can kick off something in a notification.
Right.
In crazy amounts of time. Yeah.
And especially in things like financial services, you swipe your credit card, you need a fraud service, you need something to check your bank balance. Potentially, if
they don't check yours though, do they? Yours is so high that it's fine. Also low. Yeah.
So low. But yeah, so a lot of great improvements on the latency of the event bus. The other launch that I'm really excited about happening
about
a month ago, we launched a bunch of new metrics.
Yeah.
So added.
So you've got visibility into how the events are flowing.
Exactly. And so on the latency side, we've looked at things like when you call put events to send events to the event bus, how long that request takes to come back to you. You can imagine if you have a Lambda function or something else that's sitting there calling EventBridge, any time that we take just to respond to say, hey, this is a successful event sent to us, that costs you additional time on your Lambda function. So we now give you metrics to kind of see how that's going. We have metrics for the time that it takes to invoke a actual target. A whole bunch of metrics around successful events, failed events, invocation failures.
Because that's super useful because people used to be able to build all these applications. Obviously, they can see their successful events, but things that weren't happening, maybe they're going to be dropped and you're not quite sure.
So I think a lot more visibility into what's happening on your event bus. On the kind of same topic of visibility in our pipes service that we introduced at Reinvent last year, we've added support for logging for pipes. So you can see when an event comes into the pipe, any details about the actual payload, you can choose to optionally to log that. We then show you when we do filtering of events, enrichments. So if you call a Lambda function or a third-party API to enrich the event before having it delivered, as well as when you invoke a target, what the response is.
And have all of that logging to work out what exactly is going on.
And those logs can go to CloudWatch Logs, they can go to S3, they can go to Kinesis Data Pyro, so lots of different places you can distribute them. I think we hear from a lot of folks, especially, that they love the API destinations feature in EventBridge. This allows you to send events to a third-party API. But traditionally, that's been pretty difficult to debug, right? If you weren't able to deliver to the API, it's hard to see what did the request look like that was going to the API. What did the response look like? Was it a authentication-ish error or something.
Throttled or
Yeah. So now we will actually log the response from that event as part of your fight. And sneak peek, this is the sort of functionality we will bring to buses next year as well.
Okay, cool. So anything else that you're going to talk about EventBridge while we're at Reinvent?
So we've recently launched direct integrations with Adobe and Stripe.
Okay, cool.
And so this allows you to receive events from both of those partners and have them get delivered directly to your event bus. No need to set up HTTP endpoints and handle authentication, or if you're polling instead, no polling infrastructure. Events just land right up onto your bus and you can distribute them anywhere.
So just the EventBridge story, stuff comes in from a lot of places. It goes out to a lot of places and EventBridge just manages that for you. Simple, no polling, no hassles. It's got filtering built in, it's got enrichment built in, it's got logging built in, it's got archiving, replay, a bunch of stuff. So have a look at EventBridge. Cool. Nick, thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Awesome.
great to see you. Thanks so much.
Cheers.